It's J Leman time. It's Monday. We're talking about an Illinois victory, 48-45. Boy, this team plays some exciting games here, Jay. 4 straight decided by the final seconds, final minutes.
Sure.
And, this team makes it entertaining, that's for sure. But they've won 3 of the last 4. Just overall thoughts, Jay.
Well, first of all, John Paddock's a legend. John Paddock, I'll get right into it. The guy, you throw for 500 yards. I do not think you can bench this guy. I think you got to play John Paddock. The way not only he's produced, but the way his teammates believe in him. There is a certain juice, a belief. When you have a guy on your team that you can look at and say, we got a chance with this guy if this guy's in the game, that is powerful as far as the effort that you're willing to give throughout the extent of an entire game. So 1, I'm excited about that. 2, I want to give a shout out to Barry Lunny. There's been 4 game-winning drives, fourth quarter comeback drives in a season. Guys, sometimes you'll do 1 of those in a season. That's 2 or 3 years worth right there. And you got to give credit to end of half and end of game scenarios. They've done a great job. This game was really swung in the end of the first half. Their ability to get points on the board, despite the Wiltshire kickoff that was, called back, was really good. I just answered 4 questions right there. Let's go. Okay.
Well, Jay, I like how you dove into what everyone's talking about. And I asked of Bielema afterwards, and I want to be careful of how I termed it, because Luke has been playing good football. Luke Altmyer has been playing great football for the most part the last month or so, but we all see what's happening, and you mentioned it. This reminds me of when Riley O'Toole came in 2014, and Paddock's putting up even more impressive numbers and what he's doing, but the team believed in him, and you could tell. You could sense it. You could talk to them. You could see it in them, and they see all what we're seeing. So explain how the staff goes about this, because Luke Altmyer is playing good football. He's your future. He's been your present. He has not deserved to lose a job.
Sure.
But Paddock, you got to ride this, right?
Yeah. So first off, Luke Altmyer's played good football. All right. Probably played his best football in that Minnesota game before he got banged up. He's also extremely tough. I mean, the guy's taken some shots this year. He showed a lot of moxie running the football and making throws, and honestly really played clean football since that Penn State game, and I think is the best quarterback in the Big Ten West. Well, was the best quarterback in the Big Ten West until John Paddock came up and just lit it up. If you look at Paddock's stats, you can even throw Penn State stats in there. His stats are pretty remarkable. I think it's 5 TDs, 1 interception, maybe 2 interceptions. But, I mean, he has been remarkable in his handle of the offense and his first Power 5 start to do that. Okay. So what does the staff have to think about? Well, 1, you're still building a program. Okay. I would think Luke Altmyer feels like, to me, the sense that I get, never met him. I've only heard, what he said, like a team guy, and would be willing to say, you know what, right now I got to play 10 games or 9 games. It's what's best for the team is this, and still feel like he's the future and would stay at Illinois, right? I hope that is the case. I think if you're Illinois, from a big picture perspective, who gives us the best chance against one of the best defenses in the Big Ten to win this game? As a coach, I think winning this game and winning the next 2 games has a bigger impact on your program than can I keep my quarterback for the next 2 years happy?
I agree.
And that's the answer to your question right there. So John Paddock needs to be the starter from what I've seen. Okay. If John Paddock would have thrown for 200 yards and we won the game, I think Luke Altmyer probably comes back in and is the quarterback. But when you set a Memorial Stadium record and play the way he did under pressure, under duress, making plays all over the field, you've got to keep him in the starting role. And I'll finish with this. It's different because it's the starting quarterback. Listen, if I'm a linebacker and I fill in and I have 25 tackles, I'm going to go in the field. But there's 2 or 3 linebackers that play. If I'm a point guard and I light it up for 30 in a game because I hit 7 threes, well, shoot, I'm going to be playing. But guess what? There's 4 other guys on the quarterback's a unique position because only one guy can play. But this happens a lot, guys, in football. It's not unique where a backup gets in. Kurt Warner, probably the most famous, lights it up like a Christmas tree and be like, who is this guy?
Mm-hmm. I agree with everything you said there. So let's get to the actual game here. what happened? Like how was John Paddock so successful? I think Indiana had something to do with it. Indiana and Illinois having a battle of whose secondary is worse in this game. But what makes Paddock so successful in these last 62 minutes plus overtime?
Sure. Well, we heard John Wright Sr., his grandfather, talk about his confidence. He is a confident player. You can see in the way that he plays, first two throws weren't great from Paddock. Really just, forgot about those. And from then on was extremely sharp. He has a very quick progression in the pocket. You can see him. He's very dialed in on duh. Now, there are some plays they're going to number one. It's obvious. Everyone knows. The whole stadium knows. The defense knows they're going to number one. And number one's just that good. Isaiah Williams just that good. But as far as progressions, it's remarkable how fast he reads it. And then when he sees it, he has a very quick trigger. His release is good. It's not like amazing Aaron Rodgers release here, but it's good as far as he's very decisive in what he does. And then number three, he has a lot of pocket presence that you don't even think about, right? So like the last play is probably the best example of that. He simply, they bring in two unblocked guys from his, I believe his right side. He simply steps back 2 yards and then flushes out to the right, never taking his eyes off downfield, and then has an ability to sync up with Isaiah Williams in the plaster drill. We call that plaster drill because what happens is when a play breaks down and a QB scrambles, the call on defense is plaster. All coverages are off. You've got to go find a man, plaster to him, right? And because what's going to happen is that receiver is going to work back to make the easiest throw for the quarterback, right? Well, the easiest throw was for Isaiah Williams to do that. And so the third and fourth thing that he does, the fourth thing I guess he does is he improvises great when stuff breaks down. He has the ability to improvise and keep his eyes downfield and hit that final play.
It's just amazing. This has just been an amazing 8 days for John Paddock.
Here's the deal. He's doing stuff that I'm not saying he's an NFL quarterback, that a lot of NFL quarterbacks don't do well. Okay. I went to the Packers-Rams games 8 days ago. Ripien was the backup quarterback. Guys, I watched the play. I was like, how is this guy starting? I know they brought in Carson Wentz, but I give that example of some of the stuff that John Paddock was able to do. And a big credit goes to Barry Lunny in really getting them routes and concepts that were simple enough to be executed. And also the receivers are playing at a high level, but I can't believe I got 10 minutes in without mentioning the offensive line.
Yeah, I was going to.
This was the best protection we have seen all year. I mean, Paddock had all day for the most part, other than the last play. He had all day. He was able to sit back there. He was able to step up, and it was all across the front. I thought they did a tremendous job with protection.
Yeah, I want to shout out the offensive line. I think they were really the unsung heroes of this game. Best performance by far, Jay. What did you see from them? Because I also thought Reggie Love barely got touched. Of his 140 yards, sure, 70 were after contact. Like Fagan's been like 80% after contact. Right. What did you see up front from that group?
Well, and here's the thing. Indiana's got some players in the front seven. Andre Carter, good defensive end. Aaron Casey, probably an all Big Ten linebacker if he's on a better team. And Casey made his fair share of plays, right? He made that play on third down against Reggie Love. But I want to give a shout out to Josh Kreutz. I actually thought this was his best game. You talk about a pocket and the ability for a center to really hold his ground and allow the quarterback to step up. I didn't see Josh Kreutz get pushed around at all. So I thought it was Josh Kreutz's best game as far as shape of the, holding up the pocket. I also thought it was a good game. His ability to reach block has gotten better and better, right? If I'm a center, I'm usually more of the undersized guy. I've got to be very smart. I've got to be able to reach block, and I've got to be able to be the head of the pocket, meaning when it's fan shape, I'm at the point of the pocket. I also thought, Isaiah Adams is looking more and more at home at right tackle. Zai's playing his best ball. Julian had one play where it wasn't great, but for the most part, Julian's had a solid year. I mean, he's been able to stay at his position. I feel like he's a guy that you can rely on. So that's what I saw. I also saw us climbing to the second level on our zone plays better and our gap scheme counter plays better than we have. We are getting up to that second level. And so much of that is the initial push. so that I can actually get up to the second level on any kind of puller or whatnot. So just the initial push all up front, so much better.
Yeah, I want to shout out Josh Geske too. I thought it was his best game of the year. He looks healthy. Wide receivers though, Jay, that looked like you can tell why George McDonald is riding those seniors that he has. Pat Bryant with his best game before he goes out, and then Ashton Hollins with three huge catches on the same drive. What'd you notice about them and why Indiana had fits with them?
So first I'll start with Isaiah Williams. I mean, I think he's an all Big Ten receiver. I'm not sure there's a better receiver other than Marvin Harrison Jr., who's probably, a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft. I'm not sure there's a receiver in the Big Ten that does more for his team than Isaiah Williams does. Not Roman Wilson, not Keandre Lambert-Smith over at Penn State. Certainly nobody at Iowa. So I would say this guy's a special player. So his ability to really be not more than just a slot receiver. He's become more than a slot receiver. So I want to give a shout out. But this is Pat Bryant's best game by far. Some of it was blown coverages, but you still got to make the catch. And one thing I will say about Pat Bryant is he's an excellent slant route runner in traffic, big body. That's his bread and butter. He's had some difficulty bringing in passes on contested catches, but I will say he is the best big body slant receiver that we have. When it comes to Casey Washington, he's the best back shoulder fade jump ball guy that we have. So there's kind of these different things. And overall, Isaiah Williams is the best receiver that we have. But I gotta shout out Ashton Hollins too. Here's a guy, every time he's been in, he shows up. Mm-hmm. He does something, right? Whether it's on special teams or whether it's catching a ball, I think he's going to get more time. And it's hard to beat out guys that are producing. You almost have 3 receivers with 100 yards. That'd be the first time since, the 621 game with Dave Wilson, which was interesting. I had a chance to be coached by the defensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes in 1980. So he coached me for the Minnesota Vikings, and he told me that game. And I was also coached by Brad Childress with the Vikings, who was the receivers coach for that game. And really, it was just the way they got that many yards was just nobody had seen an offense like this in the Big Ten. They just ran man-to-man on, and all Illinois did was just crossing routes, and they just dumped it, and they ran for 621 yards. So a little bit of history right there for you to tell you this was a remarkable thing by these receivers.
I want to hit on this again because I feel like it's worth saying. Barry Lunny, 6 games in, Jay, we were wondering, is he going to have a third year here? And now, this is 4 good games in a row for the offense. Not great, but this one was great, and he's had some really good performances. They've ended games well. What is clicking right now with Barry Lunny and how he's calling games, how he's coaching his guys up?
Well, first and foremost, I would agree with you. He's had 3 or 4 great games in a row. He's given his team a chance. They've moved the ball, and they've been able to play somewhat complementary football, kind of what they wanted to. So first and foremost, the offensive lines got healthier. I want to just say they've just played at a better level. One, to run the football to put us in third management. Let's remember the first half of the year, I think our third downs were on average 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8, right? I mean, most of the time that was probably average.
It was 3rd and 11 against Purdue and Penn State.
I mean, it says you can't win games at 3rd and 11 when there's no conflict on the defense. You got D-line spinning your ear back. Nothing works better. And so the emergence of Caden Fagan and then Reggie Love last week after Fagan went out has really, really helped with a consistent run game. This offense doesn't work without a consistent run game. We kind of started to get the feel this game, though, of what we saw in the UTSA game, throwing all the ball all over the field. And I will say I give him a lot of credit with some of the creativity. Listen, sometimes it doesn't work. Isaiah Williams at the goal line didn't necessarily work. Unbalanced line at the goal line didn't necessarily work. But you can always count on Barry Lunny, one, to have 3 or 4 creative sets in there and plays. But what I saw now is an evolution over the last 2 or 3 weeks of the passing game. We're getting passing routes at multiple levels in space. We've got some in the shallow. We've got some in the middle. We've got some in the deep. And we have a guy in Altmyer and also in Paddock that are able to have time to go through those progressions. And now it looks like, wow, am I watching a Pac-12 game? There's actually space on some of these routes. And I will give them credit. The receivers have upped their game. They're playing better. The offensive line is better. Barry Lunny, I think, is getting more comfortable in the rhythm of how he calls games with 3rd and manageable. And let's be honest, John Paddock, I'll say it again, has been amazing. That was an A++ game. Had one play where he fumbles the snap and throws it up. Wasn't a good play. Other than that, you're going to have some of that when you're a quarterback. he has been magnificent. Guys, you can't roll out of bed and throw for 500 yards. 100 yards, 150 yards, maybe. You cannot do that without 22 yards of completion. That's an insane amount. 19 plays of 15 yards or more. That was a season 2 years ago for a Tony Peterson offense. Guys, this is remarkable. We haven't seen a passing offense like this in maybe 30 years when you look at this game. So it's kind of crazy.
This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with a healthy lifestyle while tackling your holiday to-dos. Too busy with holiday plans to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. This holiday season, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered right to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. So head to factormeals.com/Illini50 and use code Illini50 to get 50% off. That's code Illini50 at factormeals.com/Illini50 to get 50% off.
All right, Jay, now we got to get to the negative side of things.
Okay.
Sorry to bring this down, but Illinois gave up 45 points.
Yeah.
And, I thought the defensive front did some good things. I thought the linebackers did some good things, and there were some negatives in there too. But what the heck happened in the secondary in this game where they just got dominated like this?
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to call out guys, but Taz needs to play better. I mean, Taz will say it. He'll probably tell you he needs to play better. Obviously, needs to control his emotions more, whatever happened, right? So in defense, if stuff's not working well, there's two options. One, I can change the personnel, or two, I can change the scheme, right? And they try to change the personnel, go with a bigger body and Xavier Scott on Donovan McCulley. I give Xavier credit for battling him. He's more of a natural safety nickel kind of type guy. They had him just playing a true corner. And I really like the game plan. I think Rod Carey's actually a good offensive coordinator for Indiana. They have improved vastly since they fired Walt Bell on October 5th during the bye week. They're a better football team than people actually give them credit for when they were earlier in the year. And I say that because what his game plan was, listen, I don't know if we can block the front for 3 seconds, but if I get the ball out in 2.5 seconds by throwing up to Donovan McCulley, I can just focus on my matchups. And that's exactly what they did all day, right? I mean, it's frustrating for guys like Gabe Akis and Johnny Newton, who I think they played well, but they had no time to get to the quarterback. The ball was out. You're in a shotgun. You're taking 3 steps back. Now I'm 8 yards deep, and I'm getting the ball out in 2.5 seconds, throwing up to Donovan McCulley, who's a big target, right? And so that was difficult to see that. I would have liked to see in the second half a little changeup. Honestly, I would have. I like to see a little more safety top over the help. I know we're not a great zone team. I know we're better at man, but my goodness, if that's all they can do,
yeah.
Up.
Jay, I think it made kind of sense. Like, hey, you press these guys, you make a quarterback throw into tight windows and make a receiver make a play. But credit Storsby, credit McCulley, they kept doing it. But I thought the penalties were the biggest issue there. And that man coverage is like, sometimes you got to tip your cap. They made some good plays. Having 5'10", 5'11" corners, that's what's going to happen sometimes. But
you need the length, and we are more physical as a defense in the pass game than other teams. They're grabby. We grabby. We use a lot of hands. The defense we play would not be allowed in the NFL. It's just not allowed. You can't touch people after 5 yards in the NFL, right? And so that was the one knock on Devin Witherspoon was could his game translate to the NFL because he was so handsy, right? Now, it obviously has. I'm not saying it hasn't. That's been pretty obvious. But they're really taught, and that was for years a Jim Leonard thing too at Wisconsin. There was a lot of coaches that I would talk to in pregame meetings before they talked to Wisconsin when they had those great defenses, which is from 2010 to 2020. Remember, Aaron Henry is kind of from that same base of defense where they're really handsy. they would say, hey, we're watching these DBs. We're telling the officials, hey, these guys are all over stuff. So we're very handsy in what we do. One other thing, though, it would have been easier. It almost felt like, okay, if they throw it up, there's a 75% chance to get a penalty or a catch. We didn't do a great job stopping the run. And I think that set up some conflict as well, right? Because it's not like we were just shutting down the run early in that game. We didn't do it. They ran the ball effectively, which I think is concerning for us up front, because a lot of times we were in man coverage and should have an extra guy.
Yeah, no, I think there were some run fit issues at certain times with them. But if you're Aaron Henry, how do you address that, Jay? You got a week to prepare for an Iowa team that is obviously not going to throw the ball all that much or throw it all that well.
Yeah.
But do you have to what are your concerns going into after that performance?
How is it different? So first and foremost, Deacon Hill's not going to run the ball at all, except for what I call his best play, the Deke sneak, which he is a load on the quarterback sneak, the Deke sneak. So be ready for the Deke sneak. But Sorsby also had the quarterback run. There was numerous missed assignments on the quarterback run that were big plays, 2 touchdowns on the quarterback run. I don't know if Seth Coleman or if it was the outside backer or the quarterback, but somebody's got quarterback, okay? Mm-hmm. There's going to be no quarterback run out of the shotgun with Deacon Hill, right? We're going to see basically pro sets, I formation. We will see a little empty. They've gone empty, but we're not going to see quarterback run shotgun. When I look at Iowa, really struggled. Deacon Hill's gotten better. He has not been an accurate passer, and he'll throw it to you 1 or 2 times a game, right? They're going to try to grind you with the inside zone and the outside zone. And here's the deal. They still got a good offensive line. And if you're not physical, they can move the football on you. Maybe not score a lot of points, but they can possess the ball and shorten the game a lot, where you have 3 or 4 possessions and a half. And against that defense, that's not a ton. I think the thing is Iowa gets better as the season goes on. I think Kirk Ferentz is something like 17-1 in November games, something crazy, right? As teams get better, you're going to Kinnick. And this is a game with very, very little margin for error. Like we talk a pick 6, that could be the game. We talk a punt return from Cooper DeJean, that could be the game. We talk about getting into the red zone and getting 2 field goals, not a field goal and a touchdown, that could be the game. That's how narrow this margin's going to be in this football game. And so I think defensively, we match up better to them than what we did Indiana. But offensively would probably match up worse, because who doesn't match up worse against the Hawkeye D?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that, Jay. Like, the other part of this story with Luke Altmyer is, man, you want to bring him back to play this defense? That's where I struggle. And in this Iowa defense, what do they do so well? What is the key for whoever is the quarterback going up against this Phil Parker defense?
Yeah, from a technical perspective, I mean, they basically play an under front. And I call it cover 6. Cover 6 is basically quarters coverage into the field, the wide side, and then into the boundary. They're going to play cover 2 and have a quarter just kind of sit into the boundary. And their safeties are going to be very involved in the run game. They're going to have their feet flat foot at 8 yards. And that safety, the Bob Sanders position, the one that Bob Sanders made famous 20 years ago, he's going to read the key. If it's a run, he's going to be a run support safety. They're always going to have an 8-man front to stop the run. If it's pass, he'll then roll out and play that deep half. And so, or deep quarter, excuse me. And so that's what they're going to do to try to really stymie. But what makes them so good is, one, if you do the same thing over and over again, you're more focused on what your opponent's doing than what you're doing. Okay. So that's key, right? So many players are focused, like, I don't want to make a mistake. Okay, blitz, I blitz an A gap here. Wait a second. I got to be aware of what the offense is doing. Truly great defenders are aware of how they're trying to be attacked. And so I think, number one, that makes Iowa really good in that they're more focused on how they're going to be attacked than what they are doing. Okay. Number 2 is this. They've always had great defensive line play. Okay. They are going to be very physical up front, and it's hard to get a push on them. It's going to let Jay Higgins and other people run free at the linebacker positions. It's not a mistake or a coincidence that an Iowa linebacker is always in the top 2 or 3 of tackles, right? Because of the defense they play. And then number 3, you're going to see almost exclusively zone coverage and a lot of eyes on the quarterback. This has led them to lead the league and be top 5 in the nation in interceptions over the last decade. You will see them get a pick or two because they all have eyes on the quarterback and they know how they're being attacked. Okay. And they've had a system. They've done this system for 25 years, first under Norm Parker. And Norm Parker ran it at Michigan State with Nick Saban in the 80s, where Phil Parker was a player. And so Phil Parker learned this as a player. Phil Parker came on with Norm Parker in 1998 when Ferentz came there in 99. And then they've just done that whole defense for years. It's something they recruit to. It's something they coach. It's something how they know they're going to be attacked. And that's why they're so efficient. Boy, that was a big breakdown of the Iowa defense. But I'm so tired of people just saying, oh, they're just good. They do it all the time. There's a reason behind all of that.
Well, and the other key is, Jay, the special teams got to be better for Illinois than they were against Indiana because Iowa's are going to be great. And, we could talk all about Iowa's offense. Their special teams and defense are elite, and that's why they are leading the Big Ten West and control their own fate.
And why you and me really thought that, I thought Iowa would be the Big Ten West favorite.
Yeah.
I thought Illinois had a chance at that. Again, we said Illinois could have 5 wins, which they do, or 10 wins, which they could have had, right, if they were playing like this. So I agree. Listen, Kinnick, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Ohio State. You go to Kinnick in November, it's going to be a hard game. I don't care who you are. I think you could put Georgia up there, and I think Georgia would win 21-7, but it was a dogfight. They would win, but it'd be tough.
No, I agree with you, Jay. Well, it is a very interesting finish. 3 of 4 wins for Illinois and 2-0 in November. Still got a chance at that Big Ten West title, but need to go beat Iowa in Iowa, which Illinois has not done, Jay, since 1999. We'll talk about it next week, man.
The House of Horrors. Let's go.
This episode of the Illini Inquirer Podcast is presented by Underdog Sports. We see a lot of you are downloading Underdog Sports, using the promo code, and having fun, which we love to see. If you haven't already checked out Underdog Sports, be sure to do so. It's super easy to use. You go on the app, go pick whether favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total than what is listed. For example, Travis Kelce, he's very popular these days. If his number is set at 50 receiving yards and you know Taylor Swift is in the house, you may feel confident he's going to go way higher than the number. Do that with 2 to 5 different players and you're in business. If you go 5 for 5, you can 20x your money. So sign up today with promo code Illini and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with promo code Illini to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. There are a lot of fantasy companies out there, but we decided to partner with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. You must be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org.